Hey guys, so for today's video, I'm going to be talking about my experience using a Diva Cup. This is the first time I have ever used a menstrual cup, and I'm going to talk about my experience. So if you want to know how this thing went, please keep watching. I'm going to be talking about my experience using a menstrual cup, specifically the Diva Cup. This is the size 1 Diva Cup, and it comes in a package like this. There's a little insert that goes inside it that actually like kind of holds the cup, but I have no idea where that is. It also comes with this cotton little bag to store your cup in between uses, which I actually really like. Also, if you carry around a purse, this will be great to just kind of stick in there to be kind of discreet. So I forgot to mention that I used a size 1 cup, and they have 2 sizes of Diva Cup, and I believe the only difference is that the size 2 is for women over 30 who have gone through childbirth, and I had not, so I decided to pick up the 1. So for the first time since I've become a woman, I actually kept a little menstrual journal. Just kind of wrote down my experiences using the cup, when I put it in and when I took it out, and how much blood I lost, because in my whole life I've never known how much I bleed. First time I ever got my period, I was 14 years old, and from 14 to about 17 or 18, I used primarily pads, which I honestly hated. And then I switched over to tampons, which I liked a million times better than pads, but I was never like, oh my god, tampons. Like, I still had leaking sometimes, and no matter what I did, even if I used a super tampon or what, something was always wrong. And so and I was always deathly afraid of toxic shock syndrome, and so I would have to obviously frequently change my tampons, and just sometimes I would be literally too heavy and I would leak, and not just like a little bit, like a lot, like significantly leak. So for the last couple of years, I've been hearing about a menstrual cup, and for some weird reason I couldn't justify spending the money for it. But I finally was like, you know what, I spend about $10 on just tampons alone every other month, so that's about $60 a year on just tampons without panty liners or whatever. This cup was $36.98 at Walmart. A lot of people say that you can use these for up to 10 years. And right there, it kind of beats it out. Basically, on the instructions, it just says use at your discretion. If you think that it's time to change it, you change it. I've been watching videos for about a year and a half on getting a menstrual cup, and I went full force like the last month, 2 months. And I was like, okay, I need to really get one. So this past Monday, on the 20th, I purchased this one at Walmart. Like I said, this is, from what I've looked at, a fairly larger menstrual cup. It comes with a little stem, and this is supposed to be to make it, I believe, easier to pull out. Some people cut off the stem because they can feel it. I don't have that problem, so I just leave the stem on. So when I first got this, I thought, how the hell am I going to put this inside me? Because this is not the size of your typical tampon. So this is the difference in diameter. Of course, when a tampon goes inside you, it expands, but I always honestly felt like my tampons never expanded, even though they say they do. I don't know. I just always had leakage. Not probably like every month. Not as bad every single month, but I feel like there was always something on a panty liner, you know? So like I was saying, this really intimidated me. I was like, how the hell? This is nuts. So on the directions, there are 2 ways you can fold this. One is a C fold, where you just fold it like this and fold it like a little taco, and you insert it into your vagina, and essentially when it goes in, it'll pop open, and there are these little holes. I don't know if you can see them. There are these little holes around the rim. Hopefully you can see them. And that is where the airflow goes through. It also suctions to the wall of your vagina, so it provides a seal. There's also the pinch down fold, which is the fold that I use. It's basically where you take your finger and you push the cup down like so, and you insert it like that. I just used the pinch down fold and that really worked for me. Okay, so moving on to the first day that I used this. I went swimming on Tuesday and I thought I was going to get my period before I went swimming, which is why I bought this. I didn't want to use tampons. Luckily, I didn't get my period until I got home later that night. So around 7 p.m. at night on Tuesday, the 21st, is when I got my period. And I was so excited to use, not for my period. I was just so excited to use this. So I did a little punch down. I put one leg up on a chair and inserted it up inside me. I believe when I first tried, it would not even go, and I was like, oh my god, this is horrible. And I think I did it two more times, and then it went in and the seal opened. I kind of felt the stem a little bit, but I was afraid to like push it up because I had saw videos on YouTube of people who said if you push it up too high, it'll cause leakage. So that worried me. So it wasn't super uncomfortable with the stem, to be honest, because not much was like sticking out. But I just remember it being a little uncomfortable. So I put it in, like I said, at 7 o'clock at night, and I slept with it, which was kind of cool. I woke up in the morning at about 5:45, and I decided I was going to take it out to see if it worked. I went to the bathroom, I went pee, wiped myself. There was no blood, which I was like, what? And I removed it. So to remove it, while it's in your vagina, it's very hard to remove. So what I did was I pinched the base, and that kind of released the seal that it had, and then I just slowly pulled it out. So when I pulled it out, the cup was completely cleaned except for the inside, and I removed about a quarter of blood was inside. So that was kind of my first initial experience with it. So naturally, after I went to the bathroom, I rinsed it out. I have a sink right by my toilet. I rinsed it out with warm water. I didn't like soap it or anything. It says not to use any fragrance soap and to use a mild soap if you do. I rinsed it out with warm water, cleaned it, and then I reinserted it with the pinch fold. That was at 5:45, 5:50 in the morning. I went to the bathroom at 11, and when I wiped, there was some blood, and I was afraid that there was a leakage. So I removed the cup, and there was now a 1/2 ounce of blood in it. So this is technically like my second day, which used to not be my heaviest day, but in the last maybe year or so, my period has gone from 7 days to 5 days, and the second day is now my heaviest instead of the third day. So there was quite some blood this day. So I had a 1/2 ounce when I removed it about 5 hours later. I reinserted again. So that same day at about 4:20, at about 4:20 in the afternoon, I went to the bathroom. Same thing, there was a little bit of leakage. I removed the cup, and again there was a 1/2 ounce of blood. So now from 11 to 4:20 was another 1/2 ounce. I cleaned it out, did the same thing, reinserted it, and went about my day. So then that same day at about 9 o'clock at night, I was at a friend's house. I used the bathroom. I didn't have leakage, like, it was kind of weird. I didn't have leakage like blood. I thought I was leaking fluid outside of the cup because I felt wet. It was actually clear fluid, which was kind of weird to me. Probably mucus or something. So gross. But probably mucus. And then I took out the cup. There was another 1/2 ounce of blood in the cup, and I cleaned it, washed it out, reinserted it, and then at about 12:30 midnight, so now we're on the 23rd, I had leakage again. I removed the cup. There was about a 1/2 ounce again. There was about a quarter again of blood, and I cleaned it out, reinserted it. At 5 a.m. that morning, I had significant leakage while I was sleeping. Luckily, I had like a thin panty liner. and I woke up like just in time, and I went to the bathroom, removed the cup, and I only had a 1/4 ounce. So I know that I have not been inserting it in right, and I was trying to push it higher, push it lower. I was trying to tilt it back. I just think that my seal was not getting messed up. TMI, I guess, but it felt like it could not expand in my vagina properly. Like, I think a lot of people have problems. Sometimes one part doesn't fully open. So I think that was my problem, that I wasn't like getting it in right, obviously. At around 8:30 that same morning, I went to the bathroom. I had slight leakage, took it out. There was a 1/4 ounce of blood, did the same thing, processed, cleaned it, inserted it. And then at about 12 in the afternoon, I went to the bathroom, had leakage, removed it, rinsed it, reinserted it. There was a 1/2 ounce then. Then at 3 p.m., I went to the bathroom again, and same thing. There was a little bit, like a tiny amount of leakage. I removed it. Whenever I feel like there's a leak, I just remove the cup because I'm scared that if I leave it in there, it's going to be worse. So I just removed it. There was a 1/2 ounce in there, and then I cleaned it and reinserted. At 5:08 p.m., I went back to the bathroom, and I used the bathroom. I would use the bathroom again, and there was not significant leakage. It was kind of like the pinkish part again. I decided not to remove the cup this time. So about 2.5 hours later, I went pee again, and I wiped, and there was blood on the tissue. So that's when I decided to empty it. I cleaned it out, and there was now a 1/2 ounce of blood in it. I cleaned it, like I said, and reinserted. And then about 6 hours later at 1:30, I used the bathroom again. I wiped. There was a significant amount of blood. I removed the cup. There was a 1/2 ounce of blood in there, and then I did the same process all over again. So I changed it at 1:30, and then the next time I changed it was at 9:50. I went to the bathroom. There was no blood. I was like, yes. I decided to leave it in there, and then I went back at noon. I removed the cup. I don't know why I removed it. I didn't write down that there was blood, so I'm not sure why I removed it, but there was about a 1/4 ounce of blood in there, and I just did the same thing and reinserted it. Then that same night at like 8:20 at night, I had a significant amount of leakage. I removed the cup, and it was about a 1/2 ounce of blood in there, and so I just did the same thing, cleaned it, reinserted. At 1 a.m., I removed the cup. There was no leakage, barely any blood. I remember there's probably like this much. So barely, like if this is a 1/4, it was barely anything in there. I cleaned it out and reinserted it, and because I knew that my period still wasn't over, so I just reinserted it. And then the next time I removed it was at 11 a.m. So I went from 1 a.m. to 11 a.m. I went to the bathroom, and there was no blood at all. I removed the cup, and there was like what looked like a couple of drops in there. There was less than before. It was really, really down to the bottom. And I know that on my 4th day, I usually don't have much bleeding. Like, I'll go throughout the whole day practically with no bleeding, and then towards the end of the night, I bleed again. In this case, I didn't bleed all day until the next day, which was technically the 5th day. I put it in at about 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and then I removed it the next morning, and there was about a 1/4 of blood. So at the end of my cycle, I took this, boiled it in hot water for about 5 minutes, and then I keep it in this little bag right here. And that is it. So as you can tell from like my kind of period journal that I did, it wasn't a very easy transition for me. I will say that I would still use this 100% over my tampons, because while I did leak, I did not leak the way I have leaked with tampons, if that makes sense. Like, I did leak, and it was pretty significant sometimes, but it was also contained, if that makes sense. Like it was more of like the outside of this. Like it wasn't like a stream of like leakage. It was like whatever was coming off of this. If that make any sense? Whereas like with a tampon, I felt like it was like a literal leakage. I will say that it is a learning process. I am going to keep at it. I did really like it. And even though it was expensive, like I said, that writes itself off within, I mean, in 3 months, basically. In about 6 months, it's kind of almost double for me. But it was very interesting to see how much I bled throughout the month. I have, with my period, like 1 month will be fairly normal, maybe even light, and then the next month will be like horrible, will be heavy, and then the next month will be light, or then sometimes it's light again. So I think this was kind of like a heavier month. I had more cramping this month before I put this in. This didn't make my cramping worse, but I did notice that I felt like I had to pee a lot while wearing this compared to when I wear tampons or when I used to wear pads. Like when I wore tampons, usually I went to the bathroom because I felt, you know, like I was leaking or whatever. So then I would go to the bathroom to change my tampon, and then I would pee. But this, I felt like I had to pee. And I don't know if it was pushing up against my bladder, probably was, or the pressure, you know, like the pressure of it being in my vagina. But I just felt like I had to pee a lot. That was kind of like the first 3 days, I would say. Not so much on the 4th day, definitely not on the 5th day. And I haven't had problems since I stopped using it. So the first like 3 days or so, it just felt like I was always peeing. And I don't know if that was just because my body wasn't used to it, because it kind of died off after that. So if you're thinking about getting a menstrual cup, I say go for it. I think it is life-changing. I really don't feel like I worried about this like at all, honestly. It was kind of amazing. I loved that I could sleep in it and I didn't have to worry about it for 12 hours. And I heard stories of people saying that theirs went too high. If that's the case, you kind of bear down, like if you're gonna take a poop or something, and your vaginal muscles will push it lower. I also heard that if you walk around for like a half hour or an hour, it will, natural like gravity will kind of push it down, and then you can pinch it and grab it out. The last day or so, I was getting kind of fed up, like this is leaking too much. I felt like it was leaking a lot, and it was kind of discouraging me. And I saw my box of tampons and I was like, just do it, like just get 1 tampon. But honestly, I'm glad that I didn't, and I kept with it. I watched a crap ton of videos. I will link some down below that I found very helpful. But the last couple of times I used it, I did have that problem where one of the sides was kind of indented. I did have to stick my finger up in there and kind of move it, which I felt like helped one time. Another time it would not help. So then I kind of just squeezed the base like a couple of times, and it kind of popped out, I guess. And I didn't have any leakage then. But I will say that it is definitely like practice. You have to practice at getting it right. It doesn't, at least not for me, it didn't just like pop in there and work. I think if you have a lighter flow, you could get away with it, to be honest. But someone like me who had kind of a significant flow this month, or I would classify as heavy. I mean, when I totaled my ounces, I lost about 5.25 ounces of blood. So I would classify that as heavy, I believe. I would 1000% recommend you try a cup. It is good for the environment. You're not wasting tampons, flushing them down the toilet, or pads. And honestly, pads and tampons are horrible for you. The chemicals that go into making those things, I have read, increase blood flow, so you buy more. I've also read that there's risk of like it doing harm to your body in general because of the toxins in it. And if you're a tampon wearer, Toxic shock syndrome is no joke. I mean, people have died, lost limbs, and it freaking terrifies me, and I just didn't want to have to deal with that anymore. So I'm really, really glad that I got this. So I know this is kind of rambly, and I am sorry for that, but I didn't really have an order that I wanted to go with this. And I just want to say to everyone who has got a Diva Cup and is feeling discouraged, please, please don't give up. Your health is so much more important than a tampon or a pad, and this is worth trying. I think that it will change your life. I feel like even though I don't have it down to 100% science, it is already doing that for me. I felt better this period. I did have cramps, but they didn't feel as bad as they did on any of the other months where I had a heavy flow. So I would say just stick it out. Please, just stick it out. Keep trying it. It'll work eventually. And there are also tons of other companies that make cups. This is just more accessible as they sell it in stores. I believe Walgreens has it, Target, Walmart. So do your body a favor and try this out. I know it's a lot of money and you can't return it, but I think it's worth it. It is really, really worth it. This period was the least messy period that I've had since ever. I can't even remember one that was not as messy. Like, this was more contained for me, and I love it. So thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.